This is You're Probably Right. Entertainment first, everything else is just bonus. Opinions, all ours. Sometimes backed by research, but never the final word. There are always exceptions, so take it with a grain of salt and a slight dusting of chili powder.
Hey, what's up? This is MCM, and you're listening to You Probably Right podcast. I'm happy to see you, of course. Yes, you're happy to see me, I guess. I do have a face for radio, but you know what? I decided, let me just get into this video podcasting game because everybody else is now. I just thought it would be kind of cool to do one. Um, it's really not necessary to see me, honestly, and that's why I really don't really care about it. Not to mention, because I do this podcast by myself, to have somebody pay attention to whether the camera's on, whether the recording stuff's right, and all this other stuff's going on, and lighting. And obviously, my lighting's not that great. I'm doing this in the dark. It's late at night now, and yeah. I also got these earrings digging into my ears. I think I should probably take those out. Actually, whatever. Who cares? Anyhow, 20 things that will trip you up when someone doesn't love you. Now, I know that I always say that, entertainment first, and that is true. But I can honestly tell you that a lot of these things that I do or say in my episodes, they come straight from the heart because I've been through stuff and I know other people go through things as well. So I try to do my best to think about others, and I'm always a person who likes to open a door for someone else. If I had to push a door open and it got slammed on my foot or my arm 5 times, I don't see why I shouldn't try to open that door and hold that door open for someone else so they don't have to go through what I went through. So that's kind of pretty much the basis as to why I actually do this podcast, Perry, because I'm not making any money. It doesn't look like money here, y'all. You got this one old time switch, and yeah. Anyhow, that teddy bear behind me, whatever it is. Okay, so listen. There's a certain kind of relationship that it doesn't feel dangerous at first. As a matter of fact, it feels exciting. They come fast. Everything's all amazing. You get all those butterflies, Michael Jackson butterflies. The person, they say the right things. They look at you in a way that makes you feel noticed finally. Maybe you're waiting for a long time. Maybe you've been in a drought of whatever kind. They make you feel like something is finally happening. And when you're the type of person who feels deeply, right? Or maybe you have the anxious side where, you attach fast when someone feels special. That kind of attention can wake up parts of you that were sleeping. Now, you're not just talking to someone. I guess, I know people say they're just talking to someone, but at the same time, while you're talking to that person, you're imagining, you're thinking, your mind races what things could be. You're always checking your phone. All of a sudden, you're replying to conversations, and you're paying attention to small changes in tone, like everything. And this is especially if you're an anxious person. You're wondering what everything meant. You're wondering what changed. You're wondering why they're warm today and they're cold and distant the next day. And that's where the trap starts. Not always because the person came in with, a plan to destroy you or anything like that. Sometimes they're just selfish. Sometimes they're empty. Sometimes they're broken. Sometimes they lack attention, and sometimes they like attention. Sometimes they just like to be wanted. They're not really concerned about what's happening with you. Sometimes they are hurt and they don't care who they hurt while trying to feel powerful again. And sometimes, yes, they know exactly what they're doing. But either way, the result can be the same. You end up giving pieces of yourself to someone who isn't even giving anything really back to you. You're giving something, but it's not that real. You know, a little money here, a little pride there, a little sleep, a little self respect, a little health, a little peace, a little more time, a little more forgiveness, a little more understanding. And one day you wake up and realize this person didn't really take you in for real. You know, they eat you piece by piece. And I know it might sound weird to someone, but I mean, if you've gone through this, you know it's like you're doing so many little things, small little things, and you're paying attention to everything, and they mention something and you see if you can go get it for them, or they mention something gives them a hard time and you try to fix it for them. And this is the part that most people, you know, they really won't understand if you try to explain it to them. It eats away at you. Some people, you know, they don't want to break your heart with one big event, right? It's kind of funny how it goes. They slowly train you to betray yourself. And that's what I want to talk about. 20 things that will trip you up when someone doesn't love you. And I'm not saying, you know, this is for men only. This is for women too. Men do this. Women do this. Good people do this. Lonely people do this. People who believe in love do this. People who believe in marriage do this. People who believe they can fix someone and some things do this. People who made one mistake and have been trying to pay for it ever since. Yeah, maybe it was a moment of indiscretion, as they say, and ever since that, it's like you feel like you're trying to catch up, and for some reason, you just can't catch up no matter what you do. So let's walk through this. Okay, so number one, they come in fast and wake up your emotions before there's even evidence that it should be woken up. And that's the first trip. Some people don't enter your life slowly. They rush in. The conversations feel intense. The chemistry feels real. The attention feels personal. They make you feel seen before they've actually proven that they're safe. And that's the danger. Because once your emotions wake up, right, you start giving meaning to things that are probably just moments. You know, a long conversation becomes a sign for you. A compliment becomes a signal. A little vulnerability becomes proof. A look becomes a promise. But feelings aren't evidence. You know, some people are good at creating feelings, but they're not good at relationship building. And if you're not careful, you can become loyal to, to somebody who gives you a feeling before you even know what their feelings really are, whether or not their feelings are there at all. Number two, you start giving them a role in your mind before they have even earned a role in your life at all. This is where imagination gets expensive. You start thinking about what they could be or what could come from this. Maybe this could be the one. Maybe this could finally be different. Maybe this is why the last thing didn't work, and somehow what you're doing now, it's gonna work. Everything's just clicking. There's just so much chemistry, as they say. Maybe God brought this person around for a reason. Maybe all the pain before this was leading here. Maybe. But maybe not. Maybe it's not even a relationship. Sometimes the person you are building in your mind is kinder, clearer, more loyal, more mature, and more loving than the person standing right in front of you. And that's how people get caught. They're not only dealing with the person, right? They're dealing with the movie that they're creating in their own mind around the person. They're doing things where they're taking snippets of perfect situations or amazing mountaintop moments. And you get caught. And once you start loving the movie that's playing in your mind, the facts start becoming interruptions. It's like, they're having a bad day, or they went through a lot of stuff before I came around, so that's why they're treating me that way, or that's why they're that cold. Number 3, you begin helping before you understand your place. Sorry guys, I have to keep checking this thing. I don't trust that it's everything's going tickety boom, you know what I mean? Anyways, it seems like it is, so whatever. So anyways, before you know your place, you start helping, you start putting yourself in an area in their life where you probably don't belong, and you're probably not really wanted, but you're probably accepted because you're useful. And this is one where you start showing up like you already have a title in their life. You're helping with problems, helping with stress, you're helping with bills, maybe you're helping with a ride here, you're doing errands, you're helping with advice, you're helping with their emotions, helping with their children if they have them, family situations. And at first, right, it feels good. You feel useful. It feels useful. It feels good in your life to be doing this, because this is what your ultimate goal kind of is. So you're kind of, it's like you're jet setted. You're like shot right. Maybe you're only supposed to be at level 1, but all that kind of stuff where you're doing errands and fixing problems and fixing emotions and helping with this and helping with that. Maybe you pick up a kid here, this, that. It kind of shoots you to like level 17 when you're really at level 1. And in your mind, level 17 is real. You know what I mean? But there's a quiet danger in being useful too early, because sometimes people will accept help without accepting the responsibility that should come with the help. They want the benefits of your care, but they don't want accountability of real connection. So now you're acting like a partner, but being treated like an option. And that will mess with your mind. Number 4, you start spending like the relationship is secure when it's not. This is where your wallet gets involved, or your pocketbook, or your purse. Maybe you, maybe you buy gifts. Maybe you pay for things that you shouldn't. Maybe there's people who even need your money that are really close to you in your life, and you're reserving it for this person because you're trying to build something, and this is kind of your most important venture right now. So maybe you neglect your own bills. You cover costs. Maybe you send money. You stretch yourself. And they're behaving like you have it. And maybe that's a little lie that you tell yourself. Maybe it's a little lie that you tell them, where you really reach out. And and this is a lesson, I guess, probably more for guys, but for women as well. Sometimes guys will spend and pay into somebody's life when they think that there possibly might be a future. And sometimes you misrepresent yourself. You know what I mean? You can't afford that Birkin. You can't afford Michael Kors. You can't afford Ralph Lauren. You can't afford Gucci. You can't afford Michael Murray or whatever. You know what I mean? But you're spending, you're buying it. You're buying that belt that's three to $700, maybe more. You know, you're doing stuff that, and these are just examples, but it could be anything. You know what I mean? But you're overdoing it, way overdoing it. You know, you tell yourself, it's just generosity, but underneath the generosity, there may be fear. Fear that if you don't give, they'll pull away. Or maybe they pulled away and that's what made you start giving. Fear that someone else can offer more. So you're trying to, like, in essence, keep up with the Joneses, as they say. Fear that you have to prove that you're valuable. Fear that love has to be purchased in small payments. And that's how people end up broke and trying to look worthy. And the painful part is, right, the person receiving it may not even see that it's actually sacrifice. That's what I was trying to say to you, really. They just cool, they just see the service. They see the gifts. They may not even think that, you're giving from the heart. They may just think you're just giving stuff, you know? Maybe they're just thinking that, you'll do it and you'll do it again. And that is a dangerous shift in your whole situation. Because once your giving becomes expected, your sacrifice becomes invisible. And then basically you're slowly causing yourself more than just financial problems. You're like torturing yourself at the same time. There's something maybe you needed to do for you or for yourself. I mean, for somebody that's already attached to you, maybe your own kids, maybe somebody else, maybe your parents, maybe your siblings, maybe a friend needs something, but you're giving in to someone who definitely doesn't deserve it, someone who definitely doesn't appreciate it. And I think you kind of get the idea. Okay, number 5, you become the worker in the relationship. There's a moment when love stops feeling like love and starts feeling like a change, like a shift. You wake up tired, you go to work, you handle the house, you handle the bills, you handle the kids, you handle the emotions, you handle the silence, you handle the mood changes, you handle the tension, and somehow the other person still acts like you're not doing enough. You're doing stuff, but for some reason it's just not enough for them for some reason. And that's when the relationship starts feeling like a job where, you pretty much have to clock in and you don't feel like you ever clock out. You're always available, night or day. You're the driver, maybe, you're the cleaner, you're the counselor, you're the provider, you're the apology department, the emotional support line. You're the repair crew, you fix stuff, the bank machine, the person who basically has to keep everything from falling apart. And a lot of the time that's like when you're in a relationship, like a real committed marriage almost, but just something isn't clicking, something isn't right. I'm kind of trying to describe to you, they receive, they complain, at the same time. Sometimes they expect, they judge the service, but they don't ask what it costs you to keep providing it, to keep doing it. And that's where it's difficult. And again, you'd have to really experience it, where you're just doing and doing, and sometimes where you'd figure that a person would be so appreciative. Maybe you really, really bent over backwards and it's like nothing. Yeah. Number 6, You learn to read moods instead of telling the truth. And a lot of the time when you start learning to read moods, it's pretty much like walking on eggshells. The eggshell stage, really. You walk in the room and you check the temperature. Not only the temperature of the room, but the temperature of the room, if you understand. The emotional temperature. Are they cold today? You start paying attention to ticks. Maybe they have ticks. Maybe when they're upset, their eyes blink faster, and you catch something like that, or they tap their foot or their hand, or they're fidgety or something that tells you if something's off. And you actually pay attention to stuff like that. Are they quieter today? Are they irritated? Can I ask a question today? Should I wait till tomorrow? Should I bring this up after dinner? Should I say it, maybe a little softer? Should I say nothing? Should I tiptoe around the house and not bang on the pots today, or do my usual whatever it is and, just be quiet? This fair, I guess it's like fair with good manners. And people can live like this for years. They become skilled at surviving somebody else's moods. They know when to talk. They know when to keep quiet because they're reading things. You're constantly reading things. It's like you're always on. You know when and how to apologize. You know how not to apologize. You know when to act normal, when to pretend. But a relationship where truth feels dangerous, right, is already teaching you to disappear. Number 7, you confuse silence with maturity. Sometimes you think you're being wise because you didn't react. You didn't argue. You didn't bring it up, whatever it is. You didn't say how much it hurt, your feelings or whatever. Sometimes you're going through pain and you just don't say anything because it's going to cause more problems and you're still going to feel the pain that you're feeling. So you just be quiet. You didn't ask why their energy changed. You didn't ask why affection disappeared. You just stayed calm. Maybe you behaved like a roommate, like a friend, like a sibling. You stay controlled. You stay pleasant. But the silence is not always maturity, right? Sometimes just the silence is just straight up fear. Sometimes silence is you protecting the relationship from the truth because you already know that the truth might expose how weak the relationship really is. And that's a hard place to live because now your peace demands, it depends on how much of yourself you're going to hide. And that's never good. Like you have to negotiate, you have to compromise certain things, but you shouldn't have to compromise who you are and how you're feeling. And I'm not saying that your emotions have to dictate everything, and and if you're not feeling good, you don't want to get on that side of things, but you do have feelings. You are a person too. You're just as important as they are. Number 8, you explain your pain like you're in court. And this is a courtroom stage. You start presenting your case intelligently. You explain what happened. You explain how it made you feel. You explain what it meant. You explain what you didn't mean. You explain why you're not crazy. You explain why you're not jealous. You explain why you're not trying to control them. You explain why you're hurt. And you keep thinking, maybe if I explain it better, they'll understand and finally everything will be okay. But sometimes they already understand. Sometimes they change the subject on you while you think you're getting into the best monologue of your life, an amazing, well thought out soliloquy, and you just know that you know that you know that you've explained yourself properly, and somehow nothing changes. As a matter of fact, sometimes they behave like you didn't say anything at all. And that's the part that hurts. Because when somebody keeps hurting you after you explain the wound, the problem is no longer information. The problem is value. Your pain has been heard. It's just not being honored. Number 9. I thought this thing stopped recording. All right, it's working. Wow, cool. All right, number 9. You keep trying to fix something the other person has already left emotionally. This is the abandoned house. You're inside with tools. You're patching walls. You're fixing leaks, sweeping floors, changing locks, trying to make the place livable again. But the other person is already outside. They don't care. They may still visit. They may still sleep there sometimes. They may still use the address, but emotionally, they've moved. That is what happens in some relationships. One person is still in repair mode. You're there trying to do the rebuild. You're trying to rebuild trust. You're trying to decide where to fix this and where to fix that, and they're trying to figure out where to land next. They're trying to figure out where they're going. You're thinking about counseling. They're thinking about freedom. And if you're really honest, and maybe it already happened, and you're trying to figure out what happened so you don't have to go through it again. But if you really look through the history, you'll realize you kind of knew that they were on their way out, no matter what type of fixing you were trying to do. You're there trying to restore love. They're calculating how much more they can receive before they leave. And that's a brutal realization. But some people are not going to be repairing with you. They're letting you repair alone so they can benefit from the effort that you're putting in until they're ready to go. Number 10, you start paying for everything. You pay for every mistake. Maybe you only made one mistake, and maybe you're going to pay for it forever, if you understand. And this can happen in a marriage. This can happen in dating. Maybe you cheated. Maybe you lied because you were trying to smooth something over and you're worried about what would happen if they knew the truth. It can happen after a bad decision, maybe financial. Maybe you purchased something that you shouldn't have purchased and it turned everything upside down. And even when you fix the situation, it's still a problem. It gets brought up in every argument. It can happen after any kind of betrayal or disappointment. You did something wrong, you know it, they know it, you admit it, you try to make it right, and yes, trust does take time, right? But there's a difference between healing and punishment. Some people will keep you in emotional debt forever. They don't fully leave. They don't fully forgive. They don't fully return. They keep you close enough to serve the relationship, but far enough never to ever feel secure. So now every gift is a payment. It's like you're just throwing it into a hole, a bottomless pit. Every apology is a payment. Every favor is a payment. Every act of patience is a payment. And balance never really goes down. And that's not restoration. It's not. It's just nothing. There's no release date on the restoration. It's never going to be fixed. Number 11, you mistake crumbs for a real meal. This is where starvation changes your standards. After days of coldness, one kind of after days of coldness, you maybe there's a text, and you they're checking in on you. Maybe you're not like living together, and there's just something that's hey, and they send you some side of a text that you it's an opening. Maybe they did something. Maybe they ignored you for a few days, and it's like they send you a certain type of text or some sort of a message where you have no choice but to respond, and it's really about nothing, but they've become skilled at almost forcing you to respond after probably disrespecting you. After weeks of distance or days of distance, one hug feels like progress, but it's not. After months of rejection or days of, one night of affection feels like hope. After constant tension, one peaceful evening feels like a breakthrough and things are going to change and you finally turn the corner or turn the page. But a starving person can make a meal out of any little food. And that's why crumbs become so powerful, because you're starved all the time. So could you imagine if you've never had anything to eat in the last week and then somebody gives you like a soda cracker? It'll probably taste like pizza. It'll taste like a steak maybe, you know what I mean? But it's not. It's just a cracker. And that's why, it becomes so powerful, because you're always starved. The person they don't have to give you love. They don't. They only have to give you enough to reset your hope. Yeah, it's like hope that floats. Enough warmth to make you question your doubt. Enough softness to make you forget the actual pattern and what's been happening. Enough attention to keep you hooked or near the hook. And then the cycle begins again. Number 12. The fish line gets tighter. This is the image people need to remember. Okay? A person who knows that they have your emotions may not pull you all in at once. They give you a little slack thinking about fishing, give you a little slack, and then they pull. They come close, and then they move back. They act warm, then they become hard to reach. They give you a little affection, and then they make you chase the next piece. It feels confusing, but it works. And that's the main thing there is confusion. Because every time they pull away, your fear wakes up. So now what do? You don't leave or say, I've had enough of this. What do? You try harder. You give more, you apologize faster, you spend more, you become softer, you become more available, you become less demanding. And they learn something. They learn that distance makes you work. So distance becomes a tool. And that's how the hook goes deeper. Number 13, you become loyal to potential instead of reality. And this one can waste years. You remember who they were at the beginning. You remember the version that made you laugh or laughed with you, the version that, they opened up, the version that made you feel close, the version that talked about a future, the version that seemed soft. So now whenever the person presents in some sort of a ugly way, you go back to your memory. You think that the person that was there at that time is still there. They're there. You just got to dig a little bit, do a little bit more. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they're hurt. Maybe they're broken. Maybe they just need some time. Maybe they will come back. But potential doesn't love you at night. Potential is just potential. Potential doesn't pay back money. Potential doesn't restore your health. Potential doesn't rebuild your self-respect. Potential doesn't apologize for damage. Potential only matters when it becomes an actual behavior. Until then, it's a beautiful picture hanging up in a burning house, but that's what it is. It's not real. Number 14, you become needed, but not loved. This one is one of the most, confusing traps. They need you. They need your help. They need your money. They need your advice. They need your comfort. They need your patience. They might need your body. They need your forgiveness. They need your stability. And because they need you, you feel important. But being needed is not the same as being loved. A person can need your water and still not care if you're thirsty. A person can need your roof and still not care if you're cold. A person can need your strength and still mock you when you're weak. The test is it's very simple. What happens when you need something back? If the relationship only works when you're strong, or when you're the strong one, right? When you're the useful one, when you're the one who's able to forgive, then you may not be loved. You may be functioning, but it's only functioning because you're doing the job of two people. Number 15, you lose yourself in the mirror. This is the part people don't always talk about. You stop taking care of yourself. You let yourself go. Maybe you gain weight. Maybe you need to get your feet done or your nails done or something. And maybe, even guys, maybe we need to take care of ourselves, and we're just kind of, as long as we're doing stuff that is maintaining the relationship, you think everything is okay. And you can think that if you want. But when they're ready to lift up and leave you, you're going to really see what's in front of you, if you know what I mean. You stop dressing the way you used to, the way they met you. You stop going to the gym. You gain weight. You lose weight, you lose muscle mass, you stop sleeping properly, you stop laughing the same way you used to laugh and tell jokes. You fall behind on your bills, maybe you stop saving, you stop dreaming, you stop looking like yourself. And sometimes the person draining you will look at the tired version of you and lose attraction, lose respect, and actually become annoyed. And that's the cruel thing because, you're there letting go of so many things that you used to do because of them, because they helped create this exhaustion. They judge the person who becomes exhausted. But this is why you can't let the relationship eat so much of you that you don't recognize yourself. Number 16, you start comparing yourself to whoever they might choose next. This is where insecurity starts shopping in your head. Maybe they want somebody with more money. Maybe they want someone who looks better, someone maybe who's younger, someone with fewer responsibilities, less baggage, someone who doesn't ask questions, someone who makes them feel free. And once you start comparing yourself, you may start making bad choices. Sorry guys, I'm just checking this thing. You spend more than you have. You act cooler than you feel. You tolerate more than you should. You start pretending that you're not hurt. You try to compete with a person who may not even exist yet. And then you lose, obviously, to an imaginary rival. Person doesn't even exist. Or maybe they do. Or maybe just in your head. Because the real issue was never another person or other person. The real issue was that you were trying to audition for someone who should have already been honest with you, and someone who should have wanted you or should have told you whether or not they wanted you in the first place. But they don't, because you're useful. Number 17, you start thinking about escape. This is uncomfortable, but it's real. A person in a lonely marriage may start thinking about cheating. A person in a cold relationship may start enjoying attention from other people or from someone else. A person who's been ignored far too long starts feeling alive around the first person who treats them with warmth. That doesn't make a wrong choice right, but neglect has consequences. Loneliness has consequences. A sexless relationship has consequences. Emotional abandonment has consequences. And when people pretend those things don't affect the mind, you're not really being straight up. You're being dishonest. The better answer is to face the truth before pain starts making decisions for you. Because pain is a terrible driver. It will take you somewhere, but not always somewhere where you want to go. And it definitely will probably not bring you back the way you want to be brought back. Pain is something else. Number 18, you stay because leaving would prove how much you lost, right? How much you lost at the casino table, how much time you wasted of your life. You already put your money in, maybe you already have kids. So you got to put more in. You've already invested, you got to go. And now you're losing, but you don't want to leave because you've invested so much. So you stay for one more hand. It's like you're at a craps table, One more conversation, one more chance, one more apology, one more weekend, one more promise, one more year, one more child. And then the bill gets bigger. Not because the relationship got better, because you could not face how much it already cost you. And that's how people stay too long. They're not staying because they're loved. They stay because they're trying to make all the suffering that they've gone through worth it. Number 19. They may leave without remorse. This is the part nobody wants to really think about and believe, because they always hope for the best. They always think that things can somehow end up Disney, even though they've been like a horror show for the longest time. That's the pattern. But they remember the warm, nice part of the crazy movie before all the other stuff happens. That they just remember the beginning, the first 3 minutes, when everything is perfect and blue skies and it's sunny outside. Maybe you're waiting for a speech. Maybe you're waiting for an apology. You're waiting for them to admit that they drained you. Maybe you're waiting for them to say they still love you. Waiting for them to say they should have treated you better. But some people will never ever give you that. Never. Even if you've moved on, even if they've moved on, sometimes some people will never give you that. And they'll leave with a clean, clear mind, like if nothing ever happened. They'll look you right in the face like everything is okay. They'll usually minimize what you gave. They might even rewrite a story and say that you guys just had something once, or they used to know you. They make all your pain sound like it's just drama. They'll move on like your sacrifice was just something that happened. And if you're waiting for their remorse to heal, you may be trapped in that for a long time, and you're probably just going to be trapped in your head. Sometimes closure is not them admitting what they did. Sometimes closure is you finally admitting what it cost you. 20. You finally ask what the relationship is doing to you. Now, not what you wanted it to become. Not what it was in the beginning. Not what they said. Not what they promised. Not what it would be or what might it be one day, but what it's doing to you now, what it actually did. Are you healthier? Are you clearer? Are you stronger? Do you have more peace? Are your bills better? Is your mind better? Is your self-respect intact? Can you tell the truth without fear? Can you get love or ask for love without begging? Can you be tired without being punished? Can you need something without becoming a burden or feeling like you're a burden? That's the question. Because a relationship can have memories and still be damaging. A relationship can have chemistry and still be empty. A relationship can have history and still be totally, totally unhealthy. A relationship can have love and still not have enough love to save it. And that is a hard part, for real. When you know that something's there, but it just doesn't fully connect all the puzzle pieces. Something is still missing. You ever try a puzzle piece, like maybe 500 pieces, and all of a sudden there's like some nut who took one of the pieces and bounced so you never really get everything. You feel like that. It's like you get all this stuff or you do all these things, but for some reason there's no lasting satisfaction. Sometimes the person doesn't have to hate you to destroy you. They just have to keep taking while you keep giving. So anyhow, y'all, if you're listening to this in your car or you're walking or you're in bed or sitting somewhere trying to understand why you feel so tired, then this is the moment to stop arguing with what's actually just obvious. Maybe you're not tired because you're weak. Maybe you're tired because you've been carrying the whole relationship by yourself. Maybe you're not confused. Maybe somebody is confusing you. You don't know whether to stand, to sit, to stand, to run, to jump. Maybe somebody's just giving you hope and pulling it away. And it's like I always talk about Charlie Brown and Lucy, where you think the football is going to be there when you get there and try to kick it, but for some reason it always gets lifted up just as soon as you think you're going to connect. Whole thing is, y'all, you got to do your best to take care of you. Yes, you can take care and try to take care of everybody. You can do everything around you is to the best of your ability, but you have to look and say, what's happening to me at the same time? You are important too. Okay, please remember that. You can only literally do so much. And if what you're doing is literally breaking you at all times and you're supposed to be in some sort of a relationship, then something needs to be checked for real. You can't live with somebody just torturing your life while you're giving. You can't be in a relationship where you're supposed to be man and wife and you feel like your brother and sister because nothing else is going on. Something needs to be fixed. You can't be going to work day in, day out, paying the bills, fixing the car, doing the laundry, moving furniture, doing everything that you can do, and nothing is being given back to you. Maybe you're spending the paycheck on the groceries, putting the groceries in the car, putting the groceries in the fridge and in the cupboards and putting them away, then taking them out because you've got to cook. You're doing all these things and the other person's doing nothing but complaining. Nothing but pushing your needs to the side. It's not right. And maybe you're the person who's doing that to someone else. It's time, honestly, for you to come clean and time for you to check on your behavior. And maybe you need to ask yourself, why would you do this to another person? It's not right, especially if you call yourself a Christian. And if you're running yourself down by taking care of people, you got to understand you're not in a situation where you're turning the other cheek. And your body is the temple of God as well as a Christian. So you shouldn't be running yourself down and killing yourself over someone who doesn't care about you at all. Something needs to change. Anyhow, y'all, this is another episode of You're Probably Right. As you know, I got a face for radio, not for TV, but I think I would just do this one this way. Anyhow, check out the response and we'll see what happens. Until next time, take care of yourself, okay?